I never imagined a simple request for a raise could change my life so drastically. My name is Ryan, I'm 28, and I work in a mid-sized corporate office. On most days, my routine was predictable: endless emails, answering calls, and staying late to finish projects no one seemed to notice. I was good at my job, meticulous, reliable, and unassuming, but apparently, that wasn't enough. It started innocently enough. I walked into my boss's office one morning, armed with my list of achievements and careful arguments about why I deserved a salary increase. I expected the usual polite conversation, a little nod, a maybe, or a we'll see. But my boss, Ms. Harper, had other plans. She smiled, not warmly, but in a way that made my stomach twist, and said, "A raise, huh? Let's see if you're truly committed to your role." I laughed nervously. Of course, I've been here longer than anyone else in my team. She held up a finger, silencing me. Not quite. Commitment is more than hours on the clock, Ryan. Sometimes it's about presentation, demeanor, showing the company you can evolve. Before I could fully process what she meant, she handed me a folder. Inside were instructions, rules, and a schedule I didn't understand at first glance. Her words were soft, persuasive, yet carried an undeniable authority. Follow this plan for a month, and we'll talk about your raise. Don't follow it, and well, you'll see the consequences. I felt my pulse quicken. What did she mean by follow this plan? And why did the instructions involve items I had never imagined: wearing skirts, blouses, delicate shoes? My heart raced, my mind screamed protest, but her gaze held me still, unyielding. You'll find this is transformative, she added, a hint of amusement in her voice. I wanted to argue, to refuse, to walk out, and demand my dignity. But something strange happened. My curiosity, the part of me that had always wondered about stepping outside the predictable, sparked. And before I knew it, I nodded. Okay, I'll try it, I whispered. Vanessa, no. Ms. Harper smiled, satisfied. Good. Tomorrow you'll begin. And Ryan, this is only the start. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with questions, fear, and an odd flicker of anticipation. Could a simple request for a raise really lead to this? Could I actually become what she seemed to expect? I didn't know it yet, but my life was about to transform in ways I could never have imagined. Every choice I had made up to this point, the quiet diligence, the reluctance to speak up, was about to collide with a world of rules, appearances, and a meticulous plan designed by Ms. Harper. And I was going to have to follow it completely. The next morning, I arrived at the office feeling a mix of dread and curiosity. Ms. Harper greeted me at the door with that same unreadable smile. In her hand was a small box. Ryan, today we begin your transformation. I trust you're ready. I forced a nod, trying to steady my racing heart. I'm ready. The box contained delicate blouses, soft skirts, and a pair of shoes I had never imagined wearing. My mind spun, but before I could protest, she guided me to the private office lounge. Every detail matters, she explained as I awkwardly held the clothing. Your posture, your gestures, your expressions, everything communicates professionalism and elegance. Follow my instructions, and you'll see results. Ignore them, and we won't have a conversation about your raise. I swallowed hard. The stakes were higher than I realized. I had thought this was about clothes. Now I understood it was about control, about molding me into a version she deemed acceptable. I changed in the lounge, hands trembling as I pulled on the blouse and skirt. The fabric felt strange against my skin, alien yet oddly soft. My reflection in the mirror made me gasp. Was that really me? The man I had been seemed so far away, replaced by someone delicate, refined, almost fragile. Ms. Harper observed quietly, correcting my posture, adjusting the skirt, fixing the alignment of my blouse. Confidence comes from understanding who you are in this body, she said softly. Let me guide you. As the day progressed, she assigned me tasks specifically tailored to enhance poise and grace, answering calls with a gentler tone, walking deliberately between desks, managing schedules while maintaining a calm, professional demeanor. Every instruction reinforced the transformation, embedding habits I hadn't considered before. By afternoon, my mind felt exhausted but strangely aware of a new rhythm. Each step, each movement, every glance was a lesson. And as I glanced at Ms. Harper, I realized she had orchestrated every detail with precision. I was no longer just an employee asking for a raise. I was a project, a canvas she was shaping meticulously. By the end of the day, I couldn't deny it. A part of me was adapting. The man I had been was fading, replaced by someone unsure, hesitant, but gradually growing into the role she had designed for me. Fear, embarrassment, and curiosity tangled together, creating a strange anticipation for tomorrow. And deep down, I knew the real challenge hadn't even begun. The second day began even earlier. Ms. Harper's instructions had grown more specific, her expectations higher. "Ryan," she said, voice calm but commanding, "today you'll focus on the small details. They make the difference between someone who follows orders and someone who embodies refinement." I glanced at the outfit laid out for me. A silk blouse, a pencil skirt, and shoes that pinched slightly at first glance. My stomach churned, but I reminded myself this was about the raise, about proving my commitment. Changing in a lounge, I felt the fabric hug my body in ways that were unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But Miss Harper's eyes on me made hesitation impossible. She adjusted a sleeve, fixed my collar, and tilted my chin gently. "Posture, Ryan. Elegance isn't just what you wear, it's how you carry yourself." Every step that day felt like walking a tightrope. Answering calls, greeting clients, managing schedules, all under her scrutiny, my mind oscillated between fear and fascination. Was this really happening? Was I truly becoming the feminine secretary she envisioned? During a mid-afternoon break, Ms. Harper handed me a folder with detailed notes. "These are your guidelines," she explained. "Voice modulation, hand placement, facial expressions. Master them, and the world will accept you without question." I studied the pages carefully. Each instruction seemed minor, but combined, they demanded my full attention, patience, and adaptation. Every glance in the mirror reinforced a startling truth. I was slowly becoming someone else entirely. By the end of the day, exhaustion weighed heavily on me. Yet, amidst the fatigue, a strange exhilaration stirred. Ms. Harper's plan wasn't cruel, it was transformative. She had mapped out a path I hadn't chosen but was beginning to inhabit, a version of myself I hadn't dared imagine. That night, as I removed the blouse and skirt, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. The man I had been seemed distant, almost like a shadow. And though fear still lingered, a growing curiosity whispered that perhaps this transformation was more than obligation, it might be opportunity. The third day arrived, and Ms. Harper had planned something new. "Ryan," she said, her voice calm but firm, "today you will interact with clients directly. You will do so fully in your new role. Every word, every gesture, must reflect confidence and poise." My stomach twisted at the thought. Direct interaction? People who didn't know about this, how would they react? Fear threatened to paralyze me, but Ms. Harper's steady gaze anchored me. She laid out the outfit meticulously. A tailored blouse, a fitted skirt, delicate heels, and subtle jewelry. "Details matter," she reminded me. "The world notices the small things before the big ones." Dressing under her watchful eye, I felt both exposed and oddly aware of my body. The reflection staring back at me seemed different each time, slightly feminine, yet undeniably controlled by her guidance. The office lobby was quiet as I approached the first client. My hands trembled slightly, but I recalled Ms. Harper's instructions. Maintain posture, speak clearly, keep a soft tone. With a deep breath, I greeted the client. "Good morning," I said, voice carefully modulated. The client looked up, smiled politely, and responded. No surprise, no judgment. My chest lifted slightly, confidence flickered, however faint. Ms. Harper watched silently from nearby, her expression unreadable but approving. Over the course of the meeting, each interaction reinforced the transformation. Every task completed, every polite exchange, and every controlled gesture made me more aware of the subtle power in presentation. I realized that Ms. Harper's plan wasn't merely about clothes, it was about shaping perception, commanding attention, and instilling discipline. By the end of the day, my mind was a whirlwind of exhaustion and exhilaration. I had survived the client interactions, maintained poise, and followed every instruction. And as I removed the outfit that night, I caught my reflection once again. The man I had been seemed further away than ever. And though fear lingered, a growing sense of capability and awareness had begun to root itself within me. Ms. Harper's vision wasn't just controlling, it was teaching me something I hadn't known I needed to learn. And deep down, I sensed that tomorrow would push me further, forcing me to confront the boundaries of who I was and who I was becoming. The fourth day dawned with an unusual intensity. Ms. Harper had been silent for most of the morning, her eyes sharp, calculating, and focused. When she finally spoke, her tone was soft but commanding. "Ryan, today is about refinement under observation. Every movement you make will be noted, every gesture analyzed. Mistakes are not just mistakes, they reflect your commitment." My pulse quickened. Observation? By her? Throughout the office? I swallowed hard, knowing there would be no room for error. She handed me another set of outfits, each more sophisticated than the last. A fitted blazer over a silky blouse, a pencil skirt that emphasized every step, and shoes that forced me to walk deliberately, carefully. "Posture, Ryan," she instructed, adjusting my shoulders. "Elegance is in every movement. Let it flow naturally, but be mindful." Walking through the office that day was like navigating a labyrinth. Every glance from colleagues, every approach of another employee, felt magnified. I had to maintain composure, speak gently, move gracefully. My reflection in the glass doors, my reflection in the monitor screens, everywhere I looked, reminded me of the transformation. Ms. Harper guided me silently through each task, taking notes, preparing documents, interacting with staff. "Observe and reflect," she whispered. "Notice how each interaction changes perception. This is power, Ryan, the power of control over presentation." By midday, exhaustion and awareness tangled together. My body ached from conscious posture, my mind spun from careful articulation, yet a strange pride began to emerge. I was becoming someone more deliberate, more aware, more polished. During a brief pause, I caught my reflection in the mirror again. The man I had been was almost gone. In his place was someone fragile yet poised, hesitant yet learning confidence with each passing moment. Ms. Harper approached, brushing a stray hair behind my ear. "You're adapting quickly," she said softly. "But adaptation is only the beginning. Mastery comes when you realize this is not about imitation, it's about ownership." Ownership? I had never considered it. But as I walked back to my desk, every carefully measured step, every soft gesture, I began to understand. The control she had wielded over me was also teaching me control over myself, over how I was perceived, over my own presence. By the end of the day, my reflection no longer startled me. The man I had been felt distant, but the person I was becoming felt increasingly real. And deep inside, I knew tomorrow would push me even further closer to a transformation that might leave me unrecognizable to the person I had been. The fifth day felt heavier than the rest. Ms. Harper had elevated her expectations, and I sensed that the stakes were higher. "Ryan," she said, her voice calm but edged with authority, "today you'll learn subtlety, the nuances that define professionalism and elegance. Observe carefully, adjust instantly, and maintain composure at all times." She laid out the outfit with precision, a fitted blouse with delicate embroidery, a pencil skirt that emphasized every careful step, and shoes that demanded deliberate, graceful movement. Even the jewelry had been chosen to draw attention without overwhelming. "Every detail matters," she said, adjusting my collar and smoothing a wrinkle. "Elegance isn't just seen, it's felt. You'll learn to project it in every gesture, every glance, every word." Walking through the office, I felt the weight of her gaze on me constantly. Every call I answered, every file I handed to colleagues, required care. Ms. Harper's instructions played over and over in my mind: posture, tone, gestures. Even the way I blinked and tilted my head had been observed. By mid-morning, my mind was exhausted but strangely alert. The transformation was no longer just physical, it had seeped into my awareness. I noticed how colleagues responded differently: polite, attentive, respectful. Was it me, or was it the persona Ms. Harper had crafted for me? During a brief pause, Ms. Harper approached and whispered, "You're doing well. But mastery comes when you internalize it. When it's no longer just instructions but instinct." Her words struck me. Instinct? Could I truly internalize this? Could the man I had been disappear entirely and allow this new version of myself to take control? As the day progressed, subtle challenges tested me. Handling a frustrated client on the phone, organizing a last-minute meeting flawlessly, responding to an unexpected email, all while maintaining posture, tone, and grace. Every success reinforced the transformation. Every minor misstep reminded me of how far I had to go. By evening, exhaustion had transformed into a quiet pride. My reflection no longer startled me. The person I saw, someone delicate, poised, and attentive, was becoming more real with each passing day. Ms. Harper's final words before I left echoed in my mind. "Tomorrow will be your first full test outside the office. Be prepared. The world will see you as you've never been seen before." A chill ran down my spine. The transformation was accelerating, and the journey was far from over. I realized that every step I had taken until now was leading to a moment I couldn't fully anticipate, and I would have to face it completely on her terms. The sixth day arrived with a palpable tension in the air. Ms. Harper's plan had shifted again this time. The challenge involved moving beyond the safety of the office into public spaces. "Ryan," she said, voice calm but firm, "today you'll interact with people outside the office. You will be seen. How you carry yourself will determine how the world perceives you. This is your next step." My heart pounded. Public exposure? I had managed the office, but now strangers would observe me. Could I maintain the persona she had built? She handed me a new outfit, a flowing blouse, a skirt that swayed with every step, and shoes that forced measured movements. Accessories were minimal but deliberate: small earrings, a delicate necklace. "Details again," she reminded me. "Elegance lies in the subtle." As we stepped outside, the sun hit my face, and I felt every eye on me, every movement magnified. Each step required conscious effort: posture, hand placement, voice tone. I could feel my chest tighten with anxiety, yet Ms. Harper's presence beside me offered a strange reassurance. We walked to a nearby cafe, where I was to take notes for a meeting. My hands trembled slightly as I interacted with the barista, ordering coffee with the soft, polished tone Ms. Harper had drilled into me. Each smile, each nod, each carefully chosen word reinforced the transformation. Ms. Harper observed silently, occasionally whispering instructions or correcting a minor gesture. "Posture, Ryan. Grace," she reminded me as I adjusted my stance. By mid-afternoon, exhaustion mingled with a growing confidence. I noticed people responding differently: politeness, attentiveness, a subtle recognition of my composure. It was uncanny how much presentation affected perception. As we returned to the office, Ms. Harper's smile held both pride and subtle command. "You're progressing faster than expected," she said. "Tomorrow, you'll face the ultimate office test. Remember, mastery is more than compliance, it's presence, instinct, and elegance combined." That night, my reflection in the mirror told the truth I could no longer ignore. The man I had been was fading, replaced by someone more aware, more poised, and undeniably different. Fear mingled with anticipation, and I knew the journey was only gaining momentum. The transformation was no longer just external, it was shaping my very sense of self. The seventh day brought a challenge unlike any before. Ms. Harper's instructions had grown stricter, her expectations higher, and her observation more intense. "Ryan," she said, voice calm but unyielding, "today you will perform tasks that test both precision and presentation. Every mistake will be noted, every success reinforced. This is where real growth begins." She handed me a new outfit, a soft silk blouse, a knee-length skirt, and shoes that demanded careful, deliberate steps. Even the accessories were chosen with precision: small studs, a watch, and a bracelet that added elegance without distraction. Changing into the outfit, I felt a familiar mix of tension and curiosity. My reflection in the mirror revealed someone almost unrecognizable. The man I had been seemed distant, blurred by the emerging version of myself that Ms. Harper had meticulously crafted. Throughout the morning, every task was a lesson. Answering calls with clarity and poise, arranging documents with precision, interacting with colleagues politely but assertively, each action tested my ability to maintain composure under scrutiny. Ms. Harper moved silently nearby, adjusting a sleeve, correcting a posture, whispering subtle guidance. By midday, exhaustion was tempered by a strange exhilaration. I realized that the transformation wasn't just in my appearance, it was in my awareness, my consciousness, and the way I occupied space. I felt observed, yes, but also strangely empowered by the control I was learning to project. During a short break, Ms. Harper leaned close. "You're doing remarkably well, Ryan. But the final test is coming. Soon, you'll face a situation where instinct will matter more than instruction. You must be ready." The words hung in the air, and my stomach tightened. What could be more challenging than the last week's relentless scrutiny, careful steps, and constant guidance? By evening, I caught my reflection in the office window. The transformation was undeniable. Fear, hesitation, and uncertainty still lingered, but beneath them, confidence and awareness had begun to root themselves. The person staring back was someone new, someone molded yet partially mine. As I left the office, a flutter of anxiety mixed with anticipation. I knew tomorrow's test would push me further than ever before. The boundaries between who I had been and who I was becoming were dissolving, and I had no choice but to embrace the journey completely. The 8th day arrived, and I sensed a culmination approaching. Ms. Harper's presence was more commanding than ever. "Ryan," she said, her eyes steady and focused, "today you will demonstrate everything you've learned. Your posture, your speech, your interactions, every detail will matter. Mistakes are not permitted." The outfit she handed me was elegant, sophisticated, and demanding. A tailored blouse, pencil skirt, heels that forced careful movement, and subtle jewelry that added refinement. Even the way my hair was styled seemed meticulously chosen to convey confidence. As I dressed, I felt both anxious and strangely excited. The reflection staring back in the mirror was no longer the man who had nervously asked for a raise. It was a poised, deliberate version of myself. And yet, beneath the surface, fear still lingered. Ms. Harper guided me through every movement, every gesture. "Remember, Ryan," she whispered, "true transformation comes when instruction becomes instinct. Today, you will see how far you've truly come." Throughout the morning, I performed tasks that tested both precision and presence. Answering calls, greeting visitors, managing documents, every action required complete attention to detail. Each moment reinforced the internalized lessons, and I began to notice a subtle shift in how people responded. Politeness, attentiveness, and even a hint of admiration reflected back at me. By afternoon, fatigue mingled with a growing confidence. I realized that the transformation was no longer superficial. It had reached my awareness, my behavior, my very way of interacting with the world. Ms. Harper's plan had succeeded beyond mere appearances. It had reshaped the way I carried myself entirely. As the day drew to a close, she approached and smiled. "Tomorrow, Ryan, you will face the ultimate test. All that you've learned will be applied, observed, and reflected. Be prepared. This is where the journey shifts from guidance to mastery." Alone in my apartment that night, I looked at my reflection once more. The man I had been felt like a memory, distant and fragile. The woman I had become, or at least was becoming, felt real, deliberate, and undeniably present. Fear still lingered, but excitement, anticipation, and a strange pride now pulsed beneath it. I knew the climax was imminent. Every lesson, every adjustment, every carefully guided step had led to this moment. And tomorrow, The final test would determine not only my raise, but the full scope of the transformation I had undergone. The morning of the ultimate test arrived, and a tight knot of nerves twisted in my stomach. Ms. Harper's eyes were sharper than ever, scanning me from head to toe as I stood in the tailored blouse, pencil skirt, and carefully polished heels. Every detail mattered. "Ryan," she said calmly, "today you will demonstrate mastery. Every gesture, every word, every glance will reflect the culmination of your transformation. Remember, observation is constant." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her scrutiny. My reflection in the mirror was unrecognizable. Gone was the hesitant man who had walked timidly into her office asking for a raise. In his place was someone deliberate, poised, and almost ethereal, but the lingering fear reminded me how fragile the transformation still felt. Our first challenge was within the office itself, an unannounced client visit. Ms. Harper guided me to the reception area, whispering subtle instructions: posture, tone, hand placement, eye contact. Each gesture was analyzed under her watchful gaze. The client arrived, polite and professional, unaware of the full story. My hands trembled slightly as I greeted them with the soft, confident tone Ms. Harper had drilled into me. Every word, every motion was carefully measured. By the end of the interaction, the client seemed pleased, complimenting the efficiency and professionalism of the office. Ms. Harper's eyes met mine briefly, a hint of approval shining through her otherwise composed expression. "Well done, Ryan," she whispered. "But the day is far from over. There are more layers to mastery." The next tasks tested endurance, attention, and adaptability. Managing last-minute scheduling changes, answering multiple calls, coordinating staff, and handling unexpected office crises. Each situation demanded that I maintain composure, elegance, and poise, even as adrenaline and stress coursed through me. By mid-afternoon, exhaustion and exhilaration mingled in equal measure. I realized that Ms. Harper's plan wasn't about obedience alone, it was about creating instinctual control over how I was perceived, a seamless integration of presence and refinement. When a moment of silence finally came, she approached and adjusted a stray strand of hair behind my ear. "Ryan," she said softly, "look at yourself. This is mastery. You are no longer simply following instructions, you are embodying them. The world sees you now as you were meant to be." I caught my reflection in a nearby glass wall. The person staring back was transformed not just in clothing or posture, but in essence. Fear and doubt still lingered, but confidence, awareness, and poise now ran deep within me. And yet, I sensed the final challenge, the true test was still to come. Ms. Harper's eyes held a glimmer of anticipation. Tomorrow would demand complete mastery, where instinct, grace, and presence would determine the full extent of my transformation. The following morning, Ms. Harper led me into the office lobby, where a group of senior clients and staff awaited. My heart raced. This was the ultimate public test, and I knew all eyes would be on me. "Ryan," she said, her voice calm yet firm, "today you are the embodiment of everything you have learned. Your confidence, poise, and composure will be under constant observation. Fail, and the consequences will be revealing. Succeed, and your reward awaits." My hands trembled as I straightened my blouse and adjusted my skirt. The reflection in the lobby window startled me. It was undeniably feminine, poised, and elegant. The man I had been seemed like a distant memory. Ms. Harper guided me through every greeting, every handshake, every conversation. Each interaction required precision, subtle hand movements, soft tones, and a calm, yet authoritative presence. I felt both terrified and exhilarated. A senior client approached with a demanding request. My pulse surged. I recalled every lesson Ms. Harper had instilled. Maintain posture, respond with clarity, keep gestures delicate yet purposeful. I navigated the conversation carefully, managing to satisfy the client while maintaining grace and composure. Ms. Harper observed silently, occasionally stepping in to adjust a gesture or whisper guidance. "Good," she murmured, "but remain aware. True mastery comes when observation is no longer needed." Hours passed with a series of challenges, handling multiple inquiries, preparing documents under pressure, and managing interactions that required tact and diplomacy. With each success, I felt a subtle surge of confidence growing within me. By late afternoon, exhaustion and adrenaline intertwined. I caught my reflection in the glass once more. The transformation was undeniable. Fear and hesitation still lingered faintly, but the poise, grace, and awareness Ms. Harper had cultivated were now instinctive. As the day ended, Ms. Harper approached and smiled, a rare softness in her gaze. "Ryan, you have done exceptionally well. But mastery is not complete. The final moment, the true test awaits tomorrow. Be prepared to embody everything without hesitation or instruction." Alone in my apartment that night, I stared at my reflection. The man I had been was gone. The woman I was becoming was real, deliberate, and undeniably present. My anxiety mingled with anticipation, and I knew that tomorrow would mark the pinnacle of this journey, the moment where transformation and mastery converged. The final day of the ultimate test arrived, and the atmosphere in the office was electric. Ms. Harper's instructions were precise, her expectations unwavering. "Ryan," she said, eyes fixed on me, "today you will function entirely on instinct. Every task, every interaction, every movement must reflect mastery. There will be no guidance. You must embody it fully." My chest tightened. This was the moment I had been preparing for, the culmination of every lesson, every adjustment, every painstakingly practiced gesture. I straightened my posture, adjusted my skirt, and tried to steady the tremor in my hands. The first challenge came immediately. A client unexpectedly arrived, demanding a detailed briefing on a project. I took a deep breath, recalling Ms. Harper's teachings. Every word was deliberate, every gesture controlled. My voice remained calm, soft, yet authoritative. My hands moved naturally, subtly reinforcing my presence. The client's expression shifted from initial skepticism to approval. Compliments on professionalism and elegance followed. I felt a flicker of triumph. Was this really me, performing so seamlessly under scrutiny? Throughout the day, the challenges escalated. Last-minute schedule changes, demanding inquiries, and delicate interpersonal interactions. Each scenario tested instinct, poise, and presence. By mid-afternoon, exhaustion mingled with exhilaration. My movements were no longer conscious efforts, they had become reflexive. The transformation had seeped into my very awareness. Ms. Harper observed silently, her gaze occasionally softening with approval. "Well done, Ryan," she whispered at one point. "But remember, true mastery is more than perfection, it is awareness, elegance, and instinct combined." By evening, the office was quiet. I stood near a large window, looking at my reflection. The person staring back was no longer hesitant, no longer uncertain. Poise, confidence, and awareness had replaced doubt. Every movement, every gesture, every subtle expression reflected the transformation she had orchestrated. Ms. Harper approached, gently adjusting a stray strand of hair. "Ryan," she said softly, "you have surpassed my expectations. You are no longer simply following instructions, you are embodying them. The raise is yours, and more importantly, you have gained mastery over your presentation, your presence, and yourself." A shiver ran through me, not from fear, but from the realization of what I had achieved. I had begun as a man seeking a simple raise, and I had emerged as someone fully transformed, both externally and internally. The experience had challenged my fears, pushed my limits, and revealed a strength I hadn't known existed. As I left the office that night, a mixture of relief, pride, and anticipation coursed through me. The journey had been intense, humbling, and exhilarating, and deep inside, I knew that this transformation, this mastery, was something that would stay with me forever. The day after the ultimate test began with a quiet tension in the office. Though my tasks were routine now, the awareness of transformation lingered like a constant hum. Ms. Harper had achieved what she promised. I had mastered poise, elegance, and presence, but something felt unfinished. As I arranged documents on her desk, she appeared silently behind me. "Ryan," she said, voice calm, yet filled with anticipation. You've done remarkably well. But mastery isn't an endpoint. There's always the next level. Are you ready to see how far this can go? I froze, a mixture of excitement and apprehension tightening my chest. My reflection in the glass behind her showed a fully poised, confident version of myself, yet the words hung in the air like a challenge. What do you mean? I asked, careful not to reveal the fluttering nerves beneath my composure. Ms. Harper's smile was subtle, almost teasing. Tomorrow, you'll interact with new clients, larger audiences, and higher stakes. The world will see you not just as my secretary, but as someone commanding attention effortlessly. You'll need to trust everything you've learned, instinctively. A chill ran down my spine. The previous days had pushed me to my limits, but now, the real world, unpredictable and scrutinizing, was about to test me further. Alone in my apartment later, I stared at my reflection. The transformation was complete in many ways, yet anticipation gnawed at me. Could I maintain this poise outside controlled situations? Could I embody the confidence Miss Harper had drilled into me when the stakes were real? A soft knock on the window startled me. I looked outside, half expecting someone, but the street was empty. Still, my mind replayed Ms. Harper's words. Trust instinct, embody mastery, command attention. I realized then that the journey wasn't over. The raise I had initially sought seemed almost trivial compared to the metamorphosis I had undergone. Fear, pride, excitement all mingled into a single sensation that pulsed through me as I prepared for the next challenge. Tomorrow, the office, the clients, and the world would see me in a way I had never imagined. And I knew, deep down, that nothing would ever feel the same again. As the story closes for today, Ryan stands on the brink of a new chapter, transformed, poised, and aware of the power of presentation. But the journey isn't over. Every challenge he's faced, every lesson Ms. Harper imparted, has prepared him for a world where confidence and grace are his greatest assets. If you enjoyed watching Ryan's transformation, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe for more incredible stories like this. Your support helps bring more unique, engaging, and emotionally intense narratives straight to your screen. What happens when Ryan faces clients outside the office for the first time? Can he maintain the mastery Ms. Harper has instilled, or will the unpredictability of the real world push him to the edge? Stay tuned, because in the next video, we'll explore the next level of Ryan's journey, a challenge bigger than anything he's faced so far, where instinct, poise, and confidence will be tested like never before. Thank you for watching, and remember, transformation isn't just about change, it's about discovering the power within you.